Now, personally, I don't tend to think of bone as living tissue. It's rigid and inflexible, and we typically only see it as a dried up white skeleton. But this actually isn't the case at all. Bone is a living tissue. It's made up of various small cells called osteocytes. And even though bone is considered living tissue, the bulk of it is made up of non-living matrix. This matrix is hard. Osteocytes are mature bone cells. They are going to receive nutrients from blood vessels in the bone. And so there are living cells. There's a living component to bone, but the vast majority of it is considered a non-living component, a solid matrix. This is sort of what gives us the impression that bone isn't necessarily a dynamic, growing, living tissue. But the bulk is made up of a non-living matrix. This matrix is hard due to the presences of minerals like calcium and phosphorus salts, but it also has resilience due to the presence of collagen. Collagen is an elastic protein that is going to give it some sort of flexibility, some resilience, allow it to grow and change. The structural unit of compact bones is called an osteon. It consists of osteocytes, mature bone cells that are going to be arranged in concentric rings around a central canal. Each osteocyte lies within a lacuna, a small space within the hard matrix, and tiny canals connected by nearby lacuna in the central canal. Nutrients, oxygen, and waste pass from cell to cell, and they travel to and from the blood vessels that are found in the central canal. Skeleton is initially formed out of cartilage. So skeleton has a very bone tissue has a pretty significant development process. During embryonic development, most of the skeleton is going to be initially formed out of cartilage. Unlike mature bone cells, which are enclosed in a solid matrix, cartilage cells are capable of dividing. The cartilage model can grow very rapidly as the fetus does. So it's flexible, it's going to grow very rapidly. Beginning around the 3rd month, though, and then through the prenatal development, the cartilage is going to be gradually replaced by bone. The transformation from cartilage to long bone is sort of an interesting process. It's going to begin when osteoblasts form a collar of bone around the soft shaft of the cartilage model. Osteoblasts then migrate to the bone cavity to form a spongy bone. Cartilage cells within the growth plate are going to begin to divide, and they're going to slowly force the end of the bone further and further away from the shaft. This is going to allow the bone to grow outward. As the bone replaces the newly formed cartilage in the region closer to the shaft, the bone is going to lengthen, and the bone diameter is also going to enlarge as the bone lengthens. So it's going to grow a bit like a tree. It's going to grow outward in length and outward in width as well. Here we have a fetal skeleton formed mostly of cartilage, which is going to eventually slowly be replaced by bone. So there are going to be 2 regions of cartilage that are going to remain at each end of the long bone, especially during early childhood. The cap that covers the surface that's going to rub against the other bones, and then also the growth plate, also known as the epiphyseal plate. This is going to be stimulated for growth by growth hormone during childhood. And then the thyroid hormones are going to ensure that the skeleton grows with proper proportions. Eventually, over time, it's going to become solid bone. Sex hormones such as testosterone and estrogen are going to prompt and stop the growth spurt of puberty. So we're going to see a rapid bit of growth during those early stages of puberty, and then they're going to be stopped and controlled and regulated by the presence of sex hormones. By the end of the teenage years, the sex hormones are going to initiate changes resulting in less frequent cellular division. And so we're going to see that the growth plate is going to thin out, the ends of the bones are going to fuse with the shaft, and at this stage the bone is not going to increase in length. So by the end of the teenage years, we'll see that growth, long bone growth, is going to be halted. Here's a great diagram that's going to sort of summarize the fetal development from cartilage into long bone throughout early childhood. So spend a little bit of time reviewing this diagram. All right, and that's it for bone as a living tissue. Next up, we're going to start looking at the role of fibroblasts and osteoblasts in the repairing of bone fractures.